All right, what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? I feel like there's one playoff series above them all right now that I want to talk about, and that has to be the Denver Nuggets versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. I can't believe this is going to be a round one matchup this year. I'm not going to say that this could be a conference finals matchup because neither of these two teams are the best team in the Western Conference, in my opinion. That would go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, but I feel like this would be a round two series at worst, and we're getting it in round number one. It kind of feels like the Clippers Nuggets in round number one last year, but I do think the Timberwolves are at least a little bit more formidable than maybe the Clippers were last year. That could definitely be recency bias by me, but I feel like one of these teams is about to go out in such a disappointing fashion. Now, I guess the expectations are higher for Denver. They've been looked at as the better team. They have basically this window around Nikola Jokic, who's the best, their second best player in the NBA, where if they were to lose here in round number one, it'd be a complete disaster of a season. Now, they could have lost their Sunday game against the San Antonio Spurs, and they would have ended up drawing, I believe, the Houston Rockets in round number one, but they won, locked themselves into the 3 seed. Going up against Minnesota, the first game is going to be on Saturday. I have a gripe with the NBA schedule because this should definitely be the primetime game at like 8 o'clock or whatever. They ended up going to Houston, Los Angeles. If Luka's out, why is that the game one game? I don't get it. I don't know if I want to say that's what's wrong with the NBA, but I feel like this should be the primetime game on Saturday. Don't always default to LeBron James. Build up Jokic and Ant, who are going to be here in 3 years. LeBron most likely isn't. But either way, these two teams have somewhat of a serious history over the last few years. So Denver wins it all in 2023, but the start of their playoff run was the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you can make an argument, like Minnesota played them the best out of anybody. Now, I don't think they won more games than like the round two matchup, which I guess was against the Phoenix Suns. You had the Heat in the finals. I know Denver swept the Lakers, but they played them really well in that sweep. But Minnesota gave them a run for their money in round number one. Nobody was taking Minnesota to beat them. That doesn't happen. But then we get a matchup again in 2024. Now, I will say everybody thought Denver was most likely going to beat Minnesota because Minnesota in round number one in the 2024 playoffs ends up beating the Phoenix Suns. That was like Anthony Edwards, the sweep, and he kind of showed that I am one of the best players in the NBA. I can go toe-to-toe with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and I could beat them. And then they go up against Denver, and we have such a great back-and-forth series. Now, there was obviously some blowouts in that series. I know like Anthony Edwards didn't play that well in Game 7, at least shooting the ball wise, but the Timberwolves ended up winning by like 10 or so points to go to the conference finals to take on the Dallas Mavericks. Kind of robbed us of Luka Jokic, and it was showing everybody, yeah, Minnesota is legit around Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Rudy Gobert, like that defense behind Anthony Edwards. And then they also had Karl Anthony Towns on that team. They make a big trade in the 2025 offseason. They go back to the conference finals last year. A little bit of an easier path to do so. Like Denver had to draw OKC in round number two. They played OKC way better than Minnesota played them in round number two. And this is a round one matchup. So what I was saying before, if Minnesota loses in round number one, you have to say it's somewhat of a disappointing season where say they go out in 5 or 6 games, right? And it's a little bit more in convincing fashion than we think. So we're looking at this roster and say, should they have chosen Julius Randle and Naz Reid over Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Is there going to be a coaching change next year? Are they going to maybe potentially trade a Julius Randle, a Gobert, or Naz Reid this offseason, realizing that there's maybe some depth issues, realizing that maybe that's not the front court that you want going forward? I think Minnesota, though, would not react. I don't know, though, because like I want to say that if Denver loses in round number one, right, that is so disappointing because they just had, I think, still a great 2025 offseason. You bring in Valanciunas. Yeah, you trade away Michael Porter Jr., but it allows you to still get a good player back in Cam Johnson. It allows some minutes to open up for Peyton Watson. Julian Strawther still had his moments this year, and they end up also adding Tim Hardaway Jr., which was one of the best value pickups. Bruce Brown just played all 82 games, and you just got the best year of Jamal Murray's career. I fully believe this would have been the best year of Aaron Gordon's career if he never got hurt, and you still have Jokic playing at a top 2, maybe top 1 NBA level right now. You're fully in on David Adelman. I do think if Denver were to lose this round one series, I don't know, like, do you fire David Adelman? You have maybe a big financial decision to make this offseason with Peyton Watson being a restricted free agent. Are you going to make a corresponding Cam Johnson trade? Christian Brown was very disappointing off this contract extension he got last offseason, but he started to shoot better as of late. Same with Cam Johnson, where I am most likely going to take Denver when I fully kind of dive into everything here. And that's probably the team that I'm going to side with. I'm going to make my full playoff predictions later this week. It's not going to be an easy pick, though, because Minnesota can play this team extremely well. Now, throughout the season series, they handed us some great games, especially that Christmas Day game, 142-138. Denver wins in overtime. Jokic had that insane stat line at the end of it. It actually made my #1 regular season watch this year that I tweeted out and did with enjoy. Minnesota did recently beat Denver on March 1st. I mean, health is going to be a big thing too, because down the stretch, Denver was a little bit healthier, you could say. McDaniels recently came back. Anthony Edwards missed, I believe, 11 of the regular season's final 14 games. He had that knee issue, but he's been a playoff riser. He's somebody you're going to have a 30% usage rate. You're going to play him 40 minutes a night. And I'm not going to say that the Nuggets are super healthy right now. Gordon dealt with the hamstring issue all year. Cam Johnson missed 20 games with that knee issue. Peyton Watson missed a bunch of time with the hamstring issue as well. How is Jamal Murray going to kind of coexist with Jokic in the fourth quarter now that Jamal Murray just showed everybody, I'm an all-NBA guy? I just averaged 25-7 on elite kind of efficiency for my usage. He had 18 double-doubles this year, and I feel like Murray is also kind of like Anthony Edwards, somewhat of a playoff riser as well. I'm not going to say he was disappointing last year, but we definitely peaked in those 2023 playoffs where he showed everybody, I'm actually way better than I'm giving credit for. That's why he's getting paid $40 million or so a year, even though his stats maybe didn't reflect that, because of what he could be as a complimentary piece to Nikola Jokic and showing everybody that maybe they are the best duo in the NBA still. I mean, it's a good defense in Minnesota. Maybe not as intimidating since you lost to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They bring in Ayo Dosunmu. Maybe Terrence Shannon Jr. was not what they expected going into the year, where this defense is going to have a lot cut out for them going up against the Denver Nuggets, because this offense was elite this year. It was the #1 offense in the NBA, even without Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson and Cam Johnson for a decent amount this season. Even with Christian Brown not shooting the ball well, this team is lights out from three. They have obviously such a great inside presence with Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon, and they could just kind of default to these ball screens with Murray and Jokic, and it is so hard to stop. That's why I need the Knicks. I like my next side tangent here. Watch as much Murray Jokic film. I'm not saying that Cat is Nikola Jokic, because he's not, but I think there can just be something that the Knicks can unlock. Side tangent there. Maybe I'll get into a Knicks Hawks breakdown. You can let me know if you guys want to see this about any other series here at one point. I mean, the Wolves were actually pretty good against defending Denver this year, especially when Rudy Gobert was on the floor, and that's what you want out there. I mean, nobody can really stop Jokic. You could hope to maybe contain him a little bit, make other guys beat you out there, and then you could maybe default to DiVincenzo or McDaniels probably on Jamal Murray. How is Randall going to defend in this series? There could be a chance where Randall's not even playing crunch time because he could just end up being a liability defensively. How is Naz Reid going to look defensively as well? Because there's no margin for error here in Minnesota. Obviously, they want to at least split the first two games in Denver. And I feel like Minnesota was a really good road team last time they played in 2024. And I think there's still home court advantage in the NBA, and it could definitely help you out, especially with Denver, right, with the altitude. But Minnesota's already beat them before on the road in a playoff series, so I don't think they're really worrying about that too much right now. I'm just fascinated that this is a round one series, just because I was high on both these teams going into the year. I was a little bit lower on the Lakers, at least in relative expectations to Minnesota, OKC, and Denver. Houston, I had them in that tier, but once Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams got hurt, I was all right, I do think maybe Minnesota's the fourth best team in the Western Conference after OKC, San Antonio, and Denver. And we're getting these two teams in round number one. So maybe this is something that we kind of get every year, because the Clippers Nuggets was obviously a great round one series last year. Somebody's going to end the season in disappointing fashion. And I feel like they're going to have to rely a lot, at least Minnesota, on Rudy Gobert, right? This is a playoff series where you're paying Rudy Gobert this big time money to guard guys like Nikola Jokic in the Western Conference, to try to guard guys like Victor Wembanyama. And I just don't know how it's going to look with him off the floor. I don't know how much Jonas Valanciunas we're really going to see. Can Gobert match Jokic's minutes and vice versa? And it's going to come down, I think, to the bench scoring for Minnesota, which has maybe been better than we think, because Naz Reid's going to finish, I think, in the top 3 of 6 man of the year voting. Ayo Dosunmu has been great for them, and Bones Hyland has been a really solid pickup as well going forward. I just think Denver's deeper. I can't really say that they're better coached, but I don't think it's really going to matter too much at the end of the day when it's a star-driven league and you're going to go on Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray this year. I would be stunned if this Denver team with like I said so many times in this video, Jokic playing still at the best basketball of his career, Jamal Murray best basketball of his career, healthy Aaron Gordon the best basketball of his career. You add Cam Johnson and Christian Brown, slower starts, but their shooting levels. Tim Hardaway Jr. could end up in the top 3 6 man of the year voting as well at the end of the season. You have at least a better backup big in Valanciunas, no more DeAndre Jordan, Zeke Naji, in that experiment, Dario Saric. Going forward, the Peyton Watson leap, if he doesn't get hurt, does he finish as the most improved player this year? There were just so many things that went right for Denver in 2026, even though their record doesn't really reflect that, because Jokic did miss some time. I mean, they finished 7th in net rating, 1st in offensive rating. 54 wins is still a great year. It's just like San Antonio and OKC were obviously elite in their own right. And Denver was also cool with beating San Antonio to say we're not running from anybody. We're drawing Minnesota in round number 1. And then we're also saying, hey, we don't care that we're playing San Antonio in round number 2, which I guess you'd prefer than getting OKC in round number 2. It's just like what a path this would be for the Denver Nuggets, right? If somehow in 2 months we're saying the Denver Nuggets won the 2026 NBA Finals, they just went from, or basically going through Minnesota, most likely San Antonio, most likely OKC in the Western Conference. That is an absolute gauntlet. That rivals maybe 2011 Dirk Nowitzki in terms of their path going forward. And obviously you could say the same thing vice versa for Minnesota. If Minnesota wins it all, they went through Denver, San Antonio, and OKC, which obviously looks better. And then if you have to go through like Detroit, New York, Boston, it's still not like the easiest matchup in the world going forward. I mean, Minnesota, it's just like, I feel like we just got so much inconsistent play from them over the last few months. Like 49 and 33 is pretty disappointing. I know there were some injuries in there. They actually, I think, had like a 49.5 over under going into the year. So they finished slightly under that. And I just feel like they got off to a really good start this year. For the last like 2 or so months, they've been kind of just like a 500 team and never went on like an 8 to 10 game winning streak where I'm like, this is actually going to be the team that is going to make it to the conference finals for the 3rd year in a row. So obviously if they get knocked out 2 rounds earlier, it's a disappointing season. I don't know if they're going to go in a different direction from Chris Finch. He's obviously been their best coach in recent memory. I don't know if they're going to maybe try to switch some things up. It's not like they have a ton of draft capital at their disposal, but we'll get there when we get there, when we know who gets eliminated. I just kind of wanted to talk about this series in its own dedicated video. I didn't know if I was going to really have time to do it on my SROS channel. So I was like, you know what? We'll talk about it here on Extra SROS, because I do think this could be a top 3 playoff series that we're going to get in round number 1. Like last year, I would say probably the best round 1 series was definitely like Denver, Clippers, New York, Detroit. I feel pretty confident that this will finish in the tier of those 2 playoff series, and it's going to be a top 3 series. Obviously, like a San Antonio OKC conference finals is going to be great. Maybe there's a Boston, or like if that happens, and there's a Boston New York conference or semifinals. If both those teams win in round number 1, that's going to be great. I mean, Boston, Detroit, Cleveland, Detroit, but there's so many great possible matchups that we can get from these playoffs. But I do think we could get the best series here in round number 1 between these 2 teams going forward. So it's kind of like a playoff rubber match between these 2 teams too, because Denver wins in 23. Minnesota wins in 2024, and here we are in 2026. I would love to know who you guys have in this series. Do you think there is a chance for Minnesota to beat Denver? If so, let me know down below. Like, what is your prediction series-wise, like games? Do you think it's Denver in 5, Denver in 6, Denver in 7, Minnesota in 7, Minnesota in 6? Let me know down below. I guess Minnesota has not lost a round 1 playoff series since that matchup in 2023 when they played Denver. I'm super excited. Let me know if you also want to see me talk about any other series in depth here. And then we're obviously going to be doing my playoff predictions, like I mentioned earlier, on my SROS channel later this week. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.